Is right now the best time to buy altcoins? I personally think so, and I will tell you guys why I think that is, and why I think a bottom has been set for Bitcoin. I'm going to be showing you guys why I think that on the charts, along with a few altcoin setups and updates, which includes Tars AI, which is TAI USDT or USD, Verasity, which is VRA, and the last one is Spark SPK. See what has happened in these markets later on in this video. What has changed the last time I've talked about these tokens. We're also going to be talking about some major economics and crypto news right before getting into the charts. So let's go ahead and do that first. So the first thing here is we're going to be taking a look into some major crypto headlines here. This first one is by Crypto Potato. From bullish to cool down, Bitcoin remains in profit-taking phase as demand fades. This is by Crypto Quant. I do think that Bitcoin is still looking very bullish right now, and I think Bitcoin has actually bottomed at about that 112K level. I will show you guys why I think that is later in the charts. But I do think that we are in a phase, not necessarily like, I don't think a dump is coming anymore, more likely than not. But I do think that what's going on is people are taking profits from Bitcoin, but they are going into altcoins. We're seeing that with Ethereum basically trying to break its all-time highs and follow Bitcoin's lead. If Bitcoin is able, if Ethereum is actually able to break its previous all-time highs from back in 2024, 2021, it looks like a huge cup and handle there. If you actually just take a look into the monthly time frame, if Ethereum's actually able to break above that, the altcoins are going to be following the total three market cap, the total three chart, right? Which is basically altcoins excluding Ethereum, and that's when I think the altcoins are really going to get heated, okay? Of course, if Bitcoin, this has to be given that Bitcoin holds above 110K, and I think Bitcoin has a very high chance of doing that right now. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. This is by ZY Crypto. The actual Bitcoin top will be higher than 125 to 130K. Analyst declares as new bullish signal emerges. I never thought the top was going to be at 130K for this bull cycle. I know this bull cycle has not been the most straightforward one, and this whole year has been pretty much a struggle, but we're here. I think the Bitcoin top is going to be a lot higher than 130K. And I'll show you guys why as well. So I think, the altcoins are going to have a lot more room to run. All right, next piece here is by Cointelegraph. It says, rising Fed rate chatter may be a red flag for crypto, sentiment says. So I read some of this, right? It says that there's two sides of the argument to this. The first side of the argument, of course, is the Fed rate cut, which I do think is very bullish for risk-on assets such as stocks. I am looking at the S&P 500 futures, which is going to be opening in the next couple of hours. That has a high correlation with Bitcoin, and of course, Bitcoin is the driver of this market. If Bitcoin pumps, very good for the altcoins. However, if it dumps, that's going to dump the altcoins as well. So you want to be rooting for Bitcoin. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinion on this market, of course, is bullish. But none of what I'm saying here in this video is financial advice, of course. So let's take a look into what's happening here. Okay, so there's two sides of the argument. Just breaking down this news piece here. One, the bullish side, of course, is going to be the Fed rate cuts. we still have a heavy probability in favor of a Fed rate cut. Let's take a look into the CME Watch tool today. We're still at 85% of a Fed rate cut in September. Okay, so that is huge. I see that as very bullish for the markets, right? Because cheap money is basically coming. Um, and the bearish argument, I always listen to the bearish arguments if it makes some sense. Okay. If it doesn't make any sense, I'll still read it for entertainment purposes, maybe. But the bearish argument is that there could be a recession. I mean, there could be recession fears, right? Where it says right here, right? But I really do think that the markets are bullish about the Fed rate cuts more so than the recession fears. So let's go ahead and go to the next piece here. Next piece is by Crypto News. VanEck maintains 180K Bitcoin forecast as CME basis hits 9% peak. Yeah, I do think 180K would be more reasonable for the top here, and let me get to that about why. I do think that's more reasonable. I actually do think there could be even more. So yeah, I mean that's gonna be good for the altcoins if Bitcoin has more room to run here. All right, next piece here is by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin climbed to 1.7% of global money before Fed chair signals rate cuts. So that sounds very bullish for Bitcoin as it climbed to be 1.7% of global money supply, right? It sounds like it is on the uptrend to becoming the global currency. All right, next piece. We're gonna come to the charts here for Bitcoin. I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of what's happening in the Bitcoin charts because what happens here could really affect the altcoins. Okay. Weekly time frame. I talked about a cup and handle pattern breakouts. The resistance was at 110K. Price target here is 145K about. Price targets are estimates only. There could be more or less. A lot of things could happen, okay, in between a breakout and a price target. Just because you break out of a pattern does not mean 100% you're going to get to the price targets. I've seen flops that happen. I've seen breakouts that fall way short of the price target. So just got to take that into consideration when looking to take profits. Okay. And let's take a look into the weekly candle close here, where we're still kind of holding a higher low here. If we end up closing the way it looks right now, the higher low since this bounce that is. Okay, so that's very important because on an uptrend, you want to see higher highs and higher lows, and if you hold a higher low, you can expect a higher high. Now, we also have the weekly time frame moving average that's coming up. That's currently at about 105.5K, which is the blue line here. So that's catching up. That's going to be the next key support I'll be looking at if Bitcoin price action starts dumping. But why do I think that this price action that Bitcoin has bottomed? More likely than not is because I am looking at the daily time frame here. We have a falling wedge pattern. Okay, price target, which has broken out of. Price target here will be about 121K. But we also, I'm also taking a look into these bottoms here. Right, we have one bottom, second bottom, third bottom, and we have bullish divergence on these bottoms. Bullish divergence usually indicates a reversal, and we've seen that on Friday's green candle, right? Now, not only that, but the strength of this bounce here, it's telling me it's very strong, okay? It went from an RSI reading of 40 to about an RSI reading of 51. This tells me if the bears were actually to make an equal or lower low, it also has to make a lower low on the RSI to avoid another bounce. And that's going to be pretty hard to do for the Bears, in my opinion. You let me know. Okay. That's why I think it's highly likely that Bitcoin has already bottomed at about that 112K level. And that's also why I am putting my money on the altcoins right now. Of course, there are still some mixed signals on the higher time frame, which is the monthly time frame, where you could still be seeing bearish divergence playing out right now, where basically you had higher highs on the price action chart, but lower high on the RSI. That usually indicates a pullback, and we're seeing that right now. But in previous major breakouts, there has been invalidation of these bearish signals, namely back in December 2020, October 2017. Could this be a case where there's an exception to this bearish signal? Uh, at least I'm putting my money on it, but I'm also aware of the mixed signals. So in case it does play out, I won't be taken by surprise, and I will have a plan on what to do. All right, let's go ahead and go to the altcoins now. Okay, altcoins. We're gonna take a look into Tars AI first and see what has happened in this market. Tars AI is a smaller altcoin. Okay, so definitely more volatility. While there is more upside potential, there is also more downside potential. Something I am aware of, right? It is ranking like 600 and below. So if you guys are in this coin and if you guys are new to this market, just be aware of that. That these coins can go down very quickly, while having some major upside potential as well. Now let's go ahead and come to Tars AI here on this 3-day time frame. Do a quick recap. 3-day time frame. There was a falling wedge pattern. Okay, it was a bear trap, right? It wicked and then went back into the pattern and then broke out of this pattern. Price target for this breakout here is still valid because Tars AI is still above this upward trend line here, and the price target would be about 13 cents. Let's see if Tars AI gets there. Now, since the breakout of this falling wedge pattern, it has formed a few more falling wedge patterns, which is probably the most common pattern you guys will see, and it's very simple and effective because it tells you after an extensive downtrend on that time frame, the price action is likely to break back out to the upside, as we're seeing basically 3 out of 3 here. Okay, so from the last falling wedge pattern was basically where I left off. Tars AI with you guys, it basically met that price target and more, and formed another one. As you guys can see here, it broke out of it. It met the price target and more. The next scenario I'm seeing for Tars AI is a resistance at about that 8.2 cents price range. As you guys can see here, that's when it last got rejected. So I do see a possible cup and handle scenario. That's still too early to say, but it's possible because we have rounded bottom on this daily time frame, and rounded bottoms usually turn into a cup and handle, from my observation. And if that cup and handle forms, then we can come back here and talk about it some more. And that is a bullish pattern that usually breaks to the upside. Let's go ahead and go to Verasity here, VRA, and see what's happening in this market. VRA, I talked about on the weekly time frame that there was a huge falling wedge pattern, and VRA is trying to break out of it. It looks like it has already broken out of it on a very low key signal here, right? It's creeping out. A lot of people might not notice, right? Because the price action is still pretty tight, but it has broken out, right? As you guys can see here. And it is trying to stay on top of the weekly 21 SMA, which is about 0.15 cents, which is the blue line here. Now, moving averages above the price action is going to be resistance. Traders usually take profits at resistances, and moving averages below the price action is going to be support, and I usually like to buy in at support levels. Let's take a look into daily time frame. I talked about a smaller falling wedge pattern. Okay, that with the price target of about 0.19 cents. So not too much is happening with VRA right now. It broke out of a smaller falling wedge pattern on a smaller time frame here. Looks like the price target of about 0.16 cents was met. It is trying to get above the daily 200 SMA as resistance, the orange line here. But what I really see here is a potential cup and handle that could be forming as well. If VRA comes up here to retest about 0.19 cents twice, this is the scenario, right? That price level is pretty in line with the price target of the smaller falling wedge pattern. So this is basically what I'm seeing. Now, VRA, the breakout of this bigger falling wedge pattern is going to be about 1.5 cents price target. That's huge. That's like 10 times, a 10x right now. There's quite a bit of resistance along the way, including the weekly 50 SMA, the weekly 200 SMA with a very steep slope coming down. That's usually going to be pretty strong resistance, something to be aware of. Let's see if VRA can get above those resistances and potentially to that price target. Let's take a look into Spark, which is SPK USDT. See what's happened in this market here. I talked about a potential falling wedge pattern. No, actually did not talk about a potential falling wedge pattern. I actually just charted this today. So since last time, I think I talked about a potential double bottom pattern here that fell kind of short of its price target back here. I think that's where I left it off. But right now it is in a falling wedge pattern that looks like it is about to move here. And why am I saying that? It's because it looks like it's at the end of this pattern. So price action basically has nowhere to go. Like I said, price falling wedges has a higher chance of breaking to the upside, but they still have a smaller chance of breaking down as well. So it's something to be considering. Now, if it breaks out by this point here, let's just say, for example, price target would be about 1.67 cents price target. Okay. Let's see if we can get over the daily 50 SMA as resistance, the white line here, the daily 21 SMA as resistance, some resistances to be paying attention to. Now, this basically wraps it up for this video on these altcoins. Let me know if you want to continue seeing more of Verasity, Tars AI, Spark, or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.